We'll get started in just a minute or two. Okay, Preeti, I think we can go ahead and get started.
Okay, thanks, Matt. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We appreciate you for taking the time out and joining this session. We'll get started in a minute, just going over a few logistics items with everyone. So we are recording today's session. So the session recording will be available on the BRICS website under the demo tab. We will also post the slides from today's presentation under that. Throughout today's session, we would request you to keep your mics muted unless you have a question. We encourage everyone to participate in today's seminar and ask questions. You can ask questions after each speaker is done with their slides, or you can also post it on the chat box that we have on Teams. We will be monitoring the questions throughout the session and providing real-time feedback on it. And also, once all the presentations are done, we have dedicated some time for question and answers. So you can choose to ask questions at that time as well. A quick breakdown of today's events. We will start with a quick introduction from Dr. Matthew McAuliffe, who's our lead for the BRICS platform. After that, Dr. Sabal Sayuri will be going over the NIE use cases for the query tool. Dr. Alexander Bukinski is going to go over the APIs and how it's being used for the creation of different visualization dashboards. And lastly, we have Dr. Maria Begonis, who's going to show us how to use the scripts used for extracting the data and performing analysis on the data from it. And lastly, we'll be closing with comments from Dr. Matthew McAuliffe. So I'm going to hand it off to you, Matt, and you can take it from here.
Right. Are you going to advance the slides for me?
Yes, sure, I can do that.
Okay, great. Good morning, everybody. So I'm just going to give you a brief BRICS introduction just to kind of lay the framework, just so that everyone has kind of a basic understanding of the BRICS system is really made up of many modules that support the collection and analysis and visualization of data. And we're going to be showing primarily the query tool today as one of the BRICS. So the BRICS system has actually kind of evolved over time. And I originally was involved in NDAR, which was the National Database for Autism Research. And we transitioned that system over to NIMH. And the DoD and NINDS came along and said, oh, we would like something with, similar to NDAR, but with our own specific needs and requirements. So instead of building a one-off ad hoc system for the traumatic brain injury, which was the DoD and NINDS, we decided to build a generalized system that could be used and deployed in a number of different ways. And I'm part of many different working groups here at NIH, and I've tried to make sure that I incorporate the kinds of things that I hear to make data fair, findable, accessible, reusable, or findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. This is just a short list of the some of the instances of BRICS. So there are different instances, the traumatic brain injury, there's a Parkinson's disease biomarker that's deployed in the cloud, as well as a number of other instances. Okay, next slide. So this is just kind of a different way of looking at it. It's a very modular system, and different instances can have different modules turned on or off. We can control who has access to what data within the system. Usually there's to get access to the data, you have to go through a data access committee, and we fully support workflows for approving accounts and what they have, what are the user rights for getting that. But as you can see, we can share data dictionaries across, and we use common data elements that have been defined by NLM or NCI or NINDS. We have a privacy preserving record linkage system that is consistent with the NDA or NDR GUID system. We can deploy either on-prem or on the cloud. We have a deployment on Google Cloud as well as one going onto AWS. Importantly, at the very far right, you see where BRICS Intramural, we're standing up a BRICS Intramural version as a kind of a test bed for people to, within the intramural program, to use and to kind of kick the tires and get a feel for all the different kinds of functionality that are part of the system. We support phenotypic data, imaging data, omics data, so clinical. The FitBIR version of BRICS has over 180,000 imaging data sets in it. So we've worked very hard in making this a very general system with lots of different kind of functionality. Okay, next slide. We're coming out with a new release here in June. Lots of new functionality. We're migrating from Postgres to MongoDB for a couple technological reasons, and also collapsing a couple databases to make it a more real-time and interactive, or that part of the system more real-time and interactive. You'll see that there's lots of interaction with the system, and it's very functional and responsive. Okay, a couple other updates. We're adding Globus integration to improve the transmission of large and small files, and the various updates. We've just gone through, or going through right now, the new ANA process, Rev 5. So we're well along that process, and so that gives you your authority to operate. But security is very important to us, and we work very diligently at making sure our libraries are up to date and that we meet all the security requirements. We're FISMA moderate compliant, but have added a lot of controls to support FISMA high. So we're kind of working towards that, although that is not a requirement right now. Okay, next slide. These are just a listing of the different modules. You can go to the FitBIR website. They're all documented. Lots of different kinds of functionality, all the way from imaging to clinical trials to a form-based tool to allow communication. We have a BRICS tool for imaging tool for packaging up the images and submission into the system. But what we're going to talk about today is the query tool. We have a GUI interface to the query tool, as well as an API for getting access to that query tool. And here's the GUI look to that. And so this is just showing where I've queried, because we use common data elements, and that's a very important aspect, foundational principle in our system, is that we can query across studies and aggregate data very quickly. So in this case, I'm looking for the GASI score, which is the Glasgow Outcome Scale extended score, and I'm looking over 17 different studies, and then I can query and filter that data for the particular cohort that I'm interested in. You'll see a great example from Saba on that. Okay, next slide. This is just, I'm not going to go into detail. There'll be more talk about this later, but we're also going to show how we can use the REST API to authenticate into the system. We're RAS enabled, so you can authenticate in, do your query, retrieve the data, and then do some analysis or visualizations. Next slide. And then lastly, we just show a Python example of how to write Python code again and use those APIs. Okay, next slide. And there, I'm going to hand it off to Saba. So it's all yours, Saba.
Thank you, Matt. So, Preeti, you will be moving us through the slides, or should I share my screen?
Whichever you prefer, Saba. If you want
That's
to.
fine. Yeah, no, that's fine. And then when I can share it, like when I do the demo.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah.
All right, thank you. So, hello everyone. My name is Saba Al Sayuri. Today I'll be presenting our work with the National Institute on Aging NIA pilot project. Next slide, please. Yeah. So here is an overview of the 4 studies we have on the NIA, on the BRICS NIA platform. So we have Health and Retirement Study, HRS. We have Health Aging and Body Composition Study, Health ABC study. And we have Minority Aging Research Study, MARS, and Louisiana osteoporosis study, LOS. So basically, we have these 4 studies so we can show the true power of BRICS in data harmonization and how we can use it in order to identify a more comprehensive and representative cohort in order to perform your study. Next slide, please. So here is the true added value of BRICS in identifying your cohort. So using BRICS, you will be able to assemble multi-level data collected across a lifespan and providing a framework for multidisciplinary work, which will definitely expedite and improve the health, the research outcome. And also this with an improved cohort discovery, then you will definitely be able to foster communication among investigators who are leading these research studies. Also will promote collaborative research projects for topics that are not easily to be addressed, and even research questions cannot be answered using maybe only one cohort. So with BRICS, with the harmonization feature, then you will definitely be able to improve on that and identify your cohort for research. Next slide, please. So this is an overview of the ETL process, and here are the steps which I will be talking about in the following slides. So we start off with the getting an access to the data about for the 4 studies that we are considering on the BRICS NIA platform. And then after getting an access, we will definitely talk about the definition of common data elements, the CDEs, and then create form structures, then perform some data transformation in the case that we need, and then data validation and upload. Next slide, please. So, as I just mentioned, the first step is to get an access to the data, and usually for the 4 studies, the Health ABC, HRS, MARS, and LOS, we contact the data managers in order to get an access. And now, assuming that we have got the access, now we want to perform to identify the list of CDEs, which is the common data elements. And across the 4 studies, we were able to identify around 120 common data elements, and usually we consider the variable as a common data element if the variable exists in at least 2 studies of the 4 studies, then this variable will be considered as a CDE. And it's it's an iterative process. It requires a lot of going through the documentation and data dictionaries of the 4 studies. As an example, we have the data source, for example. This is one of the CDEs, and it exists in the 4 studies. This is a screenshot of the fact sheet. The green, it indicates that this CDE exists in that study. So for data source, for example, this CDE exists in the 4 studies that we have. Next slide, please. Now, after defining the common data elements, now we want to categorize them into different form structures. Now we haven't created brand new form structures. Instead, we have adopted form structures from previous BRICS instances. However, we made some customization to make it work for the NIA, BRICS NIA platform. So we have grouped the 120 CDEs that we have identified into 4 form structures, which are demographics form, medical history form, vital signs form, and daily living and physical ability form. Next slide, please. Now, the next step is data transformation. Now, sometimes we can see that we have similar CDEs. However, they are collected differently in different studies, like the foreign studies we have. So that's why, in order to make it fit into a BRICS CDE definition, we had to do some transformation. Can you click on? Because so for example, assuming we have these 2 studies, the health ABC and HRS, so we have this variable, like how difficult is it like for you to pull or push large subjects. So this variable was collected in these 2 studies, but in 2 different ways. So in the health ABC, it was like a binary variable. However, in the HRS, it was like we had like multiple levels instead of having just 2 levels. So what we did, we contacted the HRS team, and we were able to transform these 4 or these 5 levels into binary. Can you click on the slide, please? So we were able to convert that into a binary variable, yes or no, to comply with what we have with the health ABC. And with that, one more time, please. And with that, we were able to harmonize like across these 2 studies for this variable, and now we have it harmonized to make it fit with what we have also on BRICS. Next slide, please. And this is just. Can you click on the slide, please? And this is just like a screenshot of the validation and upload tool that we have. So usually after we've done with the previous steps, then now we will like extract the data files that we need to upload for each data set that we are considering. We first run the data files, validate them across the validation tool just to make sure we have everything complies with what we have with the BRICS standards. And then once they validate, then we will go ahead and upload the data files. Next slide, please. Now, where we are right now, so right now we have around 120 CDEs across the 4 NIA studies. We have already grouped them into 4 form structures, reflecting the first year of the data for around 6,013 participants. And one thing I wanted to mention is for Mars study, we have finished uploading all years available for that particular study. However, we have for the remaining 3 studies, we have uploaded the first year right now and working on the remaining years. Also, we are able to query data across studies with a great level of flexibility and doing filtration. We also are able to download harmonized data from multiple studies with a complete data dictionary. Next slide, please. In terms of future work, now we are on the we are in the process of finishing up, even uploading the full data set for HRS study, not only the harmonized data, but also for full data set. We are in the process of finishing up the full data upload with a great ability to run analyses with all data and documentation in clear, accessible, and easy to use format. However, this remains in private because like it's still in the pilot phase. Also, we are working on uploading harmonized CDEs for year 2 across the remaining 3 studies, HRS, Health ABC, and LOS, because we have already finished the whole years for Mars. Now, I think I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen now in order to run like a demo, quick demo for the query tool. Can you see my screen now? Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead. Oh, okay. Gonna go ahead and log in. Okay. So I go to the query tool, reload, do not reload. Okay. All right. So here we have the 4 studies, because here we are in the studies tab. So we have here the 4 studies. So in order to run the first part of the demo, I'm gonna select the HRS, and then with that, I don't know. So I don't. Let's assume. I can't see. Like I only can see the. Do you know why, Matt? I can only see just like 3 forms out of 4. Should I log out and then re-log in?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think.
All right. Still, I can only.
Can you click on the clear cache, Sabah, from the, yeah.
Okay. Cache clear.
And then log out and come back in, please.
Okay. Oh yeah, now everything is there. Okay, so I'm gonna select from the studies. I'm gonna select HRS, and then I'm gonna select the demographics form and the medical history, and then I'm gonna go to the data card, and then I'll be joining NIA demographics form and the medical history form, and then I'll run the query. Okay, so now we have around 12,060. We have 12,652 participants, like rows, which each represent about 1 participant. And then, however, if I want to do like more filtration, having more flexibility in identifying my cohort, I can go to select criteria. And for example, I can go to subject demographics. From gender type, I can select, for example, the female. And then if I go, for example, here to ongoing medical history, I can go to, I can move this one here. I can go to medical condition type. Okay. And then from here, I can, for example, select, I can select asthma and diabetes, and then and then go ahead and run the query. So now instead of 1,200 around 12,000 participants, now we have 942 rows or participants. So with this, we can have like a great flexibility in identifying our cohort and make it exactly fit to what we are looking for. Now I'm going to clear the data card, and I'm going to go ahead, and because the true power of BRICS is through the harmonized data, so I'm going to go to forms. So with this, I can like select forms across 4 studies. So here we were able to select like for 1 study. Here we can select across 4 studies. So I'm gonna go ahead and select the same like forms that I have chosen before for one study, but now for the 4 studies. So I'm gonna select the NIA demographics form and also the medical history, and then go to the cart and then join these two. Wait, it's not. Okay. Okay. All right. And then I'm gonna run the query. So right now we have around 85,000 rows. And I'm gonna do the same. But here, this is not only because for Mars, we have uploaded like multiple years. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go ahead and select the study year just to consider the first year of data. So study year here and then apply filter. I'm gonna go ahead and select only the first year and then run the query. Okay, and then I'm gonna also make the same, do the same filtration that I have done before. So if I go here to subject demographics, I can select the gender type. Okay, female. And then I'm gonna go ahead and also do the same thing for ongoing medical history. So I'm gonna select, I'm gonna also select the asthma and diabetes. And then I'm gonna go ahead and run the query. So now instead of having 2,200 variables, we have around 2,000 variables, 2,000 rows, sorry. So with that, you can you can customize and exactly choose the cohort that we can. Sorry for the noise. And we can select exactly the cohort that you are looking for. So this is pretty much like the demo that I wanted to talk about today. Thank you.
Thanks, Saba. That was great. I think we have time for one quick question. And just go ahead and raise your hand if you have any question, or just, again, you can put your questions into the chat, or we can also take questions offline, and in the future, just send us an email. But thanks again, Saba. That was a great talk.
Sure.
Next, we have
Actually,
Alexandra.
Maria has a
Oh,
question.
Maria has a question. Yeah, there you go.
Hi. I'm not sure whether the question will be to Sabo or to you, but I'm wondering, after you harmonize the same CDE with different value attributes between two studies, right? You have the same question, one allowed 1 to 5 answers, and another was yes or no. You made the decision to choose
Right.
one option. Do you communicate this information back to the CDE repository or whoever managed the CDEs to let them know that's what what we are going with, and that's what you should leave in the repository? Because it doesn't make any sense that we have so many CDEs. If they're not the same, they're not CDEs.
Right.
So you
Yeah,
need to
there is.
enforce that. You made a choice, a good choice, agreed upon by both studies. That's what should stay in the repository.
Sure. Yeah. So this is really historical data. This was data, the Saba was showing data that was collected in 1992. And it was well before this idea of common data elements, or data elements for that matter. So there's kind of that historical baggage that comes along with it. But what we have worked for, this is kind of a data discovery by harmonizing as best we could across those 120 data elements. It allows us to kind of comb through those 4 different studies, define data or cohort that we're really interested in diving deeper into. But we also provide documentation within the BRICS system of exactly what we did, and there's documentation that people can look at to better understand how, if we needed to make any assumptions based on the harmonization. But we try to look at variables that harmonized very consistently. Okay.
Well, I get that, and your process is fine, but I'm asking whether you communicate this information back to the CDE repository that they know too.
So I'm part of the NIH CDE governance group with NLM. Again, these variables were generated in 1992. There isn't a lot of feedback. They didn't go anyplace. They just developed all their data elements on their own. But we do work closely within FitBur, within Parkinson's disease, the BRICS system. We always try to use as common of a data element as possible when we instantiate a new version of BRICS. We don't try to reinvent new or different data elements whenever possible. In fact, for FitBur, if you're a grantee, you're required to collect the data consistent with the common data elements defined in the FitBur instance of the data dictionary. But with that, I am going to, we can have, if you have more questions, we can take this offline. I wanted to hand this off right away to Alexandra because she has a really good talk. And then we also have to leave time for Maria. So it's all yours, Alexandra.
Thanks, Matt. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and step through the slides, if that's okay, Preeti. And then I have a live demo as well.
Yeah, please go ahead, Alexandra.
Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. Please let me know when you all can see my screen.
I can see it.
Great, thank you. So thanks, Matt. Thanks, Saba. I'm Alexandra Bokinski, and I'm today going to talk about how I use the query tool, not just the query tool that Saba just showed, but the query tool API, and how I use that to create custom data visualizations and dashboards across the different BRICS instances. So like has been said already, what's great about the API is that whether you use Python and Jupyter Notebooks, and Maria's going to talk about Jupyter Notebooks and Python during her talk, or if you use JavaScript like I do, you can write one program and run that program on any of the BRICS instances. The code, the inputs, and the outputs are all the same. It's consistent across instances, which makes it the API really great for creating visualizations that compare and contrast across instances. So here I'm showing an example of a visualization that explores the intersection of data across 4 instances of BRICS. I've looked at, it's looking at CDRNS, FitBur, NEI, and PDBP. I'm excited to add NIA soon to add that to this visualization as well. Looking forward to that. I used JavaScript and the API to get lists of studies on each instance. And then I use the API to dive deeper into the form structures and the common data elements used by those studies. And then I created an interactive dashboard to explore the data I discovered through the API. The API doesn't come with specific visualization tools. The visualization tools are built on top of the data I collect through the API. Here's another custom dashboard for FitBur. It shows how study data has been downloaded over time. And I'm going to show a live demo of this dashboard after I go through my slides. To use the API, like Matt said, you need authentication, and we use RAS. And you get your token. And each token is unique for each BRICS instance. So when you're using the API, you need a different token for each. To get your RAS token, you just log on to the BRICS workspace like you just saw, and you navigate to account management. Then you cut and paste the token into your API call. So you only have to do that once. Tokens do expire after 30 minutes, but you can renew an active token programmatically. So there's an API for that, and I just listed that at the bottom. I typically write JavaScript programs that run overnight and generate the input I need for the visualization. The visualizations I write don't typically call the API on the fly. Instead, the scripts run nightly. So each morning we see the most up-to-date data. And this image here, it shows a custom visualization I created for NEI. The API tool, it's a great tool for data discovery. So like I said, you can connect to a BRICS instance, get a list of the studies available on that BRICS instance, and then get lists of forms within each study. And then you can get CDE or common data element and UMLS information for each of the CDEs in that form. This tool here shows a prototype of a tool that I'm writing to explore the common data elements across BRICS, and I've categorized them by their UMLS semantic type. And in this slide, I've highlighted the semantic type clinical attribute and am able to show all the BRICS common data elements across the different instances that I've integrated that have that UMLS semantic type of clinical attribute. All the visualizations I create are fully interactive, so the user can explore the data interactively. Here's just an example of a visualization, again, for FIPR that's an interactive visualization for the GASI data element or CDE. And I'm just going to jump right into my demo. All right. So to get to I'm going to show a visualization of the FIPR dashboard. To get there, you navigate to the BRICS homepage. There's an Explore Data tab. And then you can scroll down. These are the different visualizations I've created. And you would click on the FIPR dashboard. I think I have it already up here. Okay. So like I said a few minutes ago, each of the visualizations are fully interactive. I'm just going to step through what this one does. So we have lists of studies within BRICS, and this particular dashboard is showing how those studies, how their data has changed over time, and how that data has been downloaded by users over time. We have the central visualization. Studies are listed on the left-hand side. The user can hover over a particular study. So here I've hovered over the traumatic brain injury data for FIPR study and so forth. And then when you hover over the study, on the right-hand side, the charts highlight the particular lines in the graph that indicate how that study's data has been downloaded, but also how much data has been uploaded to that study over time. And that's over here in the middle chart here. You can see that initially the lines start out as dashed lines. That indicates that during that time, the study is considered a private study. The data isn't available. Once the study becomes shared, the line becomes solid. And so you can see what happens. As you highlight over a particular line in the chart or a particular study in the visualization, the demographic charts on the right-hand side here will update to reflect the data for that particular study. So if no study is highlighted, we get a summary view. So you can see there's 88,000 subjects in 60 studies. And again, I'm only including studies that are shared in this visualization because it's about how the studies are downloaded. And then when you highlight a particular study, those charts all update interactively. So you can see now for this particular study, there are 800 or 180 subjects in one study. Also up here, we can see the number of data consumers, those are the users that have downloaded the study. So again, if I highlight a different study, you can see this study's been downloaded by 61 different users. If I go down, the studies vary quite a bit. So in particular, this study here has close to 50,000 subjects in one study. And again, you can see how the charts update. So this is an example of one of the dashboards that we created. The data for FitBur, this particular visualization, is generated each it runs, there's a script that runs nightly, generating the output file, collecting all the data across FitBur that I need for the visualization. It generates an output file that I then use for the visualization. If there's time, I can show the BRICS data discovery tool, and if not, I can hand it over to Maria.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Alexandra. That was a great demo. Thank you.
All
And
right.
now we'll hand it off to Maria. And again, if there are any questions, feel free to put them into the chat and we'll answer them as we go.
Okay, thanks so much. Can everybody see my screen and hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. Perfect. Right from current slide. Okay, yeah, thanks so much, Alexandra, and thanks so much for everybody for being here. It's really awesome. I'm Dr. Maria Bagonis. I am going to talk a little bit more about how you can actually use BRICS APIs to customize your own analysis pipelines and visualizations. So as we just saw, we had a BRICS developer that was chatting about how she used JavaScript to access the API, download some data from FitBur, and then download a BRICS dataset for our data discovery visualization tools. But you can use the exact same process and be empowered as a data scientist and researcher. Typically, we use Jupyter notebooks, but you can pick whatever program that aligns with REST APIs. And you would do the exact same thing. Use the API and retrieve the data, and then design whatever visualizations you want. And we're going to go over how to design this one a little bit further in the slides. So just to be clear, we chatted about before, we have a GUI-based, browser-based query tool and API endpoints. Saba already went over a tutorial, but there's a lot of other, we've talked about this tutorial quite a bit, so I just put all these references here if you want to dive deeper into that. And then the API has a bunch of documentation as well. These are all Swagger websites where you're going to be able to find these so-called API endpoints, which I'll talk about later. Again, they're designed to be all the same, basic for all the BRICS instances. The only thing that's going to really change with the endpoints is going to be this .gov portion of it. But other than that, it should be the same. And so the most important thing to realize too is also the browser-based tool and the API endpoints are really designed with some similar functionality. Completely, we tried to make it as synonymous as possible. So things you can do, for instance, are find all form structures submitted for a study, find all studies using a specific form structure, and we're going to show an example of that with the GCS from FitBur. You can query data across multiple studies and form structures, filter results based on data elements, as you saw with Saba, things such as age, JSON space. Oops, I'm sorry, excuse me. And then also you can download files associated with query results. I guess with that qualifying remark, we are really actively working on workflows for numerous large files such as imaging. So if you have those sort of workflows, please just contact us, and we're continuing to develop. So yeah, so just to be clear, okay, so what is the actual difference then? Well, this is a graphical interface. It's really the workflows. Graphical interface, you check out the BRICS to data cart, download BRICS data via the browser locally, and then you're going to upload basically that data into analysis software. This is not as great for automation and things that usually I like to do. So I like the API workflows quite a bit more. It's mainly going to be a command line query from the analysis software, such as Jupyter Notebook, and it's going to load the BRICS data directly into that software. From there, you can download locally, or you could just let it die. And then from there, you can do all your visualizations. Again, why would we want to use it if we have a GUI? It's customization and visualizations. And mainly the workflow is better for automation. And as I said, customizations. You can directly download the query results, instantly create plots then at the customization. And then it's a great way to archive your work and share it with others. So I just want to demystify this API for people who don't do coding. It's really not that difficult to use the API. It's always going to be pretty much 3 steps. And that's going to be in any program that you use. What you're going to first do is define a query URL. These are all going to be found on those Swagger sites that I told you about. And as I said, just put in your instance name for whatever BRICS instance you're interested in. This is essentially going to tell BRICS what you want to do. Then you're going to define a header. This is common for APIs. This is just telling, what the output is, what the input is, and then giving authorization. As Alexandra said, you need this token, which you can pretty easily grab just from logging on. I have access to Fitbur, so I'm logged on to Fitbur here, going under account management, and then you're going to have basically the code, and you can cut and paste and put it as a variable in your worksheet. And yeah, then step 2 is really defining the request body. This is typically going to be query filter information. Again, these are going to all be defined on the Swagger websites. We have manuals and we have example code, which we're also posting to make this easier for people. Here is just a simple one where we're going to search Fitbur for all studies that have a certain form. And then you just fill it in, plug and chug, and do the query, and out pops your BRICS data. And you can then develop local customized visualization, analysis, cohort generation pipelines, pretty much anything that you'd like to explore the data. Here's just the example that I made for this demo presentation. This demo notebook is going to be online, so you can feel free to take a look and play with it. Right now it's for a Fitbur, but you can basically modify it very quickly for any instance that you'd like. It's basically finding all studies in an instance of BRICS. In this case, it's Fitbur, using a specific form. This case is going to be the GCS. Scale, and then you're going to view the distribution of these data elements. In this case, it's GCS total score among all of those studies. And so here we see I pulled the number of basically the number of studies using the GCS form. We see, and then counted the number of subjects per study. Not surprisingly, Track TBI comes out as like the heavy hitter on contributing. But you see there's definitely 8 studies, I believe, that are contributing to this data set. And here's the distribution of data elements. So one really cool thing about, and I'm probably speaking to the choir here, but large sample sizes such as this really afforded by combining the data among multiple studies is really important to reveal important heterogeneity in the patient population and ensure sampling of less common subpopulations. So the Glasgow Coma Scale is really a makeup of 3 different scores. It's eyes, verbal response, motor response, and traumatic brain injury. So usually they unfortunately look at it as a total score, usually at one time point, which is pretty sad, and even bin it into severe, moderate, or mild. When you begin to plot the data, though, all I did was mainly plot the verbal score, the motor score, the eye score, colored it by the total score, right, when you add these up, and then the count is the population count of how we sampled these measurements. And so you can see, actually, there's 2 different populations that have a total score of 10, but one has more problems with their eye movements, and one has more problems with their verbal. But we've actually began because we've, put data together to collect a decent population for both. Also, there's also these populations that you'll see that are still relatively undersampled. And so it's really important for us to like all put, our egos aside and really work together to study these patient populations. So with that, I'm not going to go over, I'm not going to actually run through the demo. I mean, I'm just going to show you the Jupyter notebook that I created. It's going to be online just to demystify it for people who aren't familiar with Jupyter notebooks. You can put information up here. Basically, I performed 2 queries to get that information. Here we'll see we're just importing dependencies. Here's where I would put my token. If I run this, it's going to ask, oops. Oh, I didn't, sorry. But yeah, this needs to be defined. It'll just ask me to set the variable. I can continue to go down. As I said, I kind of baked this before, so it's coming out of the oven cooked. But here's where you put your other variables, such as your BRICS instance, your form name, and then, as I said, call the header. And for the API request. And then sometimes there's a couple things, and this is why we like to have demo Jupyter notebooks. So to reformat the data, here's a table, of the abstract, the PI, the funding amount, etc. So so that's the basic, and you can keep on going. And as I said, there's a bunch of other visualizations that I included, and all these will be available online. With that, okay, I can stop this. Okay. And so unfortunately I have a little bit of time. I didn't think I would. I'm not going to go over this completely, but if people are interested, I did put a number of other potentially useful visualizations just to show, how the data is organized. This one is for looking at a temporal measurements of the GCS. Again, it's trying to separate out different populations, people who worsened in 2 weeks and people who improved in 2 weeks. Then you can also do filters on the data. You don't necessarily have to download all the data. Like for instance, if I wanted a pediatric population, I can only I can tell it to filter and only download data from ages from 0 to 10. Here we grab that, and then you can see that pops up the pediatric studies. And then finally, you can find studies that use more than one common form. So usually when you're doing modeling or biomarker studies, you might want this, where you need the diffusion imaging and a behavioral or output score. And so then I just have a couple examples of these in FitBur. And as I said, you can just plug and play for any other instance, and that notebook will be online as well. So yeah, wow, I'm surprised I was actually be able to show that. But yeah, insert your visualization here. As I said, we have a Jupyter notebook manual. We have all the demos are going to be available online. We have also a PDF BRICS manual. We just updated this, so it probably won't be on that. That probably will not be updated till tomorrow. But I know all of the notebooks are completely updated and ready to go and look at. I mean, so if there are any questions or comments, please feel free to contact us, and we'd love to be able to share more of these too, and design ways to share these scripts so people can share and move science forward more quickly.
So great talk, Maria. Thank you. There is a question online that is, how are we storing the data or the code on GitHub?
Oh, and I wish we would. And if there's enough interest, and that seems like there should be enough interest, we can move towards that. We just didn't quite get it to. I mean, I would love to actually have a community where you can actually contribute code too, and people can look at it. As I said, if there's enough interest.
So I can add a little bit to that. That is a goal, and that's on our list of things to do, is to make a GitHub access to our code. But right now the data is the code is accessible on the BRICS website. Correct, Maria?
Yes, we have. We've put those up, and as I said, I'm definitely will be active in maintaining that. So please feel free to contact me anytime with questions, etc.
Great talk again. Are there any questions for any of the three presenters? And if not, please feel free to send us email or request a demo. We're more than happy to provide greater in-depth, hands-on examples and or guidance. So I wanted to thank everyone again, all the three talkers, a great presentation, and give them a round of applause. And if there are no other questions, I think we can call it a day. But again, reach out to us if you want to see a demo or you have other questions. You go to the BRICS website, and we'll get back to you very quickly. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much. Take care.